Hi, I'm Tina Gallo, actress and the founder of the Nashville Studio of Method Acting. Thank you for joining my class today. We're going to talk a little bit about what is method acting, character building, and how to audition. Method acting, as we know it today, is a technique for actors to learn certain tools to have in their technique that makes their work become more believable. Standy Meisner always would say it's behaving truthfully under an imaginary circumstance. It's imaginary because everything about it is imagination, right? It's not our real life, whatever the reality is that we're in at the moment, right? So what we're doing is we are learning certain tools that teach us to be truthful, to be authentic, to be believable in our work. I always say there's external acting, which is more like conjuring something up or pretending something. Method acting, or the Stanislavski system, is to allow you to be moved. So you think about it. Have you ever watched a TV show or a movie, and all of a sudden you might be sitting there and crying while you're watching this movie because of someone else's life that you're watching, and you feel moved by the experience? That is usually an example of method acting. You feel like you're part of this experience with the actor, with their life, what's happening in this 2 hours in this film. And so you start feeling for them. Now, I'd like to add, there are some misconceptions about method acting. I've heard people say to me that, well, actually it came from a lack of knowledge when I would ask them questions, but that they felt that it was unsafe, or that they might lose their minds or go crazy while they're approaching a character. I can honestly tell you that we always worked in a very safe way at the Strasberg Theater Institute, or with any of the teachers that I've always worked with. So that is a misconception. That is a cliche. If you know the proper way to use your tools under the Stanislavski system or method acting, it is completely safe. And what we like to tell you at the Nashville Studio of Method Acting is we give you all the tools, and then you find out what works for you and go ahead and use what works for you. There's not only one way to get to the work. So I want to talk to you a little bit today about method acting and how it came to America. What is method acting? In the early 19th century, there was an actor. His name was Konstantin Stanislavski. He was from Russia. And he was an actor who decided when he was there, he wanted his work to become more truthful. And he created a system, which is now called the Stanislavski system. Well, he came to America and he began to teach some young actors in New York City his technique, his system. And that consists of Lee Strasberg, Harold Klarman, there was just so many. Stella Adler, Sandy Meisner, Eli Kazan, Clifford Odets was the writer for this team, this group of actors. And they brought in other actors where Lee Strasberg was the instructor. So he began to teach the Stanislavski system. Now, there was one person that went over to Europe and actually studied 5 months with Stanislavski himself, and that was Stella Adler. Well, Stella Adler came back and shared with Lee Strasberg that Stanislavski was no longer doing something we call emotional recall or emotional memory under the system. And so Lee Strasberg said to her, well, we still are going to do that. And they had an argument over this technique all of a sudden. And what began to happen is Lee Strasberg said, well, now I'll call it the Lee Strasberg method. And he kept in emotional memory. Now, I want to clarify how this actually started in America and what was different about the technique when an audience went to Broadway and watched these actors perform. So what happened is the group theater, they all lived together. They had this little home out in Connecticut, I believe they rented, and they studied day and night. They had a wonderful playwright that I'm sure some of you might have heard of, Clifford Odets. Eli Kazan was their director, and Lee Strasberg was one of the teachers. And again, there was others as part of this group. So they finally raised enough funds to be able to perform on Broadway, and they got their show on Broadway. Well, as the audience was leaving, the journalists, the reporters that were there, started interviewing the audience, and they noticed they were very moved. They seemed very different than when they went and saw other Broadway productions. So what they found out is when they were interviewing the audience, some of the audience, that there was a consistency being said, that they always enjoyed Broadway, they felt very entertained, they loved Broadway, but this particular time, they felt that they were moved by the experience. They felt like they were being drawn into the experience of these actors. And that was the difference. When you hear an actor needs to be truthful in their work, it's because, and it's not that we are losing our minds or we're living someone else's life, but we are taking on a character. We have to understand how does that character think? What is the writer trying to portray? We have to try to take time to understand the message that the writer is conveying, and then we bring those words and we attach them to ourselves. Stella Adler would always say, we act with our souls and not with the words. So we need to get the words in us, memorize them, trust that they're there, and then begin character building through understanding how this character might feel. Why does this character want what they want? What is it that they do want? Get all the sensory exercises that we utilize, which I'm going to go to a little bit further in this video about sensory work and some of the techniques. But the basis of it is to bring someone into your experience, to be very truthful and authentic and genuine in your work. And so Lee Strasberg really created the method, but Uta Hagen, Stella Adler, Sandy Meisner are all under the umbrella of Stanislavski. And I am very fortunate to share with you that I had the opportunity to actually work with Uta Hagen. She was my very first acting teacher. She was very practical. I loved Uta. And she applied all of the tools from all of the great masters and gave it to us in class. After a couple of years of studying with Uta Hagen at HB Studios, I went and studied with Lee Strasberg Theater Institute in New York City for their 2-year conservatory. And Lee Strasberg had just passed away at that time, and I got to work with 2 fabulous teachers that were right under Lee Strasberg. He handpicked them and he trained them, and they were fabulous. And so I was very privileged, and it was like working with Lee himself. Spent a long time at Strasberg. It became second home to me. And then from there I went over and studied with Stella Adler, and one of the things that I did discover is they had different names. Like I said, Stella did no longer believe in an emotional memory, but we actually did do it. She called it something different. We worked it a little bit in a different way, but it all connected. It's all under Stanislavski. And then after Stella Adler, I went over to Sandy Meisner School. I did work with Stella, but I did not get to work with Sandy Meisner. Once again, I worked with a hand-picked teacher right from Sandy Meisner. So it's been a great honor and a privilege to be able to work with those teachers, and I'm happy to be able to share here more with you today. I hope you enjoy this class. So in acting class, one of the first things that we would always do is work on some exercises. There's many different exercises we can apply to the work as an actor, and we also learn so much about ourselves through these exercises, which helps us to develop a character as well. But one of them that stands out that I still use, and I use them all mostly, but I'll never go without my relaxation technique. Relaxing as an actor is extremely important. It does so many different things. For one, when your body is fully relaxed and you let go of all the tension, you can become more vulnerable and more in tune with yourself, because when we act with our minds, our emotions, which is our soul, right? Stella Adler would always say we act with our souls and not the words, but it's our mind and our soul, and physically as well. So you think about when you meet a person or you see someone acting and they're very tense, it makes you feel as uncomfortable as well. So Lee Strasberg would always say there's nothing worse than watching an actor that's completely tense and rigid in their body language as well, because it shuts down your own personal emotions. So we would do what was called a breathing technique. We would lay out in a chair, we would close our eyes, and we begin to just breathe. And as we would breathe, we would start go through work an exercise through our body and find the tension areas within our body. And then when we would discover some tension, because we all hold tension in different areas, we would breathe and we would let a sound come out, a very deep sound from within, and we would let that tension go within our body. And once we would come to a place of fully being relaxed, we would work on something called sense memory work. Sense memory work is as simple as it sounds. It's your 5 senses, which is what? Sight, sound, feeling, touch, right? Taste, seeing. And we would learn to apply certain sensory work, which would, again, open up our emotions, but would bring us back to an emotional memory. So give you an example of that. You think about a song, right? I always use this in my classes with my students. These two especially. But you think about maybe you're walking in a store and you haven't heard a song in a long time, and that song comes on and you hear it and it brings you back right to a time when you've heard the song the last time. It could be 5 years ago, but you remember exactly where you were when you heard that song. I know we can all relate to that. So that's connecting the sensory of hearing the song to the emotion, because we remember where we were. I can think of a song and remember laying at the pool in the summertime and just hearing everybody splashing and having fun and feeling the sunshine. So it connects you to a time and a place. Another example might be, I remember when I was an 8-year-old little girl at Christmas time, and I wanted this doll so badly. It was called Thumbelina. Well, Thumbelina, you would push a button and Thumbelina would begin to tumble-salt. And she would just go backwards, go forward. And I love that doll so much. But all the plastic, and I don't know if they still do today, but I would expect that it does. I haven't been around a lot of children's toys lately. But the plastic in those toys had a certain unique odor to them, a certain smell. And I know if I ever smell that scent, it brings me right back to when I was an 8-year-old girl playing with my Thumbelina doll. And so that brought the emotion of how I felt when I played that doll. And I loved it. And I remember it was Christmas morning and the cooking and the noise was going on in the kitchen. And all my senses began to work. So that is how we use sense memory work. It may begin as something where we close our eyes as easy as this. And I might want to feel the sun shining on a particular part of my body. And I just want to feel the heat of that. And then my body might begin to warm up. All this type of application helps us to become a more well-rounded actor when we use our senses, but we must be relaxed to be able to be in tune with our body to allow our emotions to connect in our performance. So what is your job as an actor? Your job as an actor is to imagine someone else's life. That's what we do. What does that person feel? What does that person think? What do they want? Why do they want it? And how are you going to get it? So when we think about those questions, I'd like to add a few more on here that Stanislavski created himself that I'd like to share with you today. We call this character building. This is the questions for character building. I have this little card. If you go to my website, which will be posted here, given to you, you can find these questions there, or you could reach out to me. You can get my email and reach out to me, and we'll be happy to get these to you. They're awesome to have, especially for auditioning or while you're preparing for any of your roles in character building. So I put on one side, the left side, Uta Hagen's 6 questions, and on the right-hand side of this card, Stanislavski's 7 questions. You can go to as many questions as you want, but this is a really great starting point and guideline to always ask yourself when you're reading sides, which is taking a piece of a script out that you might be auditioning for a given character. You might not know the whole story then, so you might have to create what we call as actors a backstory, so you can answer these questions. It helps you to bring life to the character. that you're portraying. So I'm going to go over these with you a little bit. I'm going to talk about Uta Hagen's 6 questions. Again, they're the same thing, said a little bit differently on each side, but hers are real practical and simple to read. The only thing different that Stanislavski added on to make it 7 questions is what time is it? So let's go there. What time of the day is it? And why is that important? Well, think about it. When you wake up in the morning, are you exactly the same way that you are in the evening right before you're going to bed and you're tired? You might be, you might not be. You may be one of those people that just jumps out of the bed and you're ready to go. And at nighttime, you may be so tired that you could barely move. Well, we have to think about the time of the day of the character that we're portraying too, because that does change things on the way that we are going to perform this character, right? So number 1, who are you? That's our number 1 question. Who are you? What does that mean? Well, if I read a script and it's telling me that I'm a mom, okay, well that's great. But there's many type of moms. If you think about it, right? I might dive a little bit deeper than just being a mom. I might ask myself some questions like, what kind of a mom am I? Well, how do I determine that? Especially if I don't even have the whole script to know. Well, one way is I might see somewhere in there that it tells me I'm a single mom, or perhaps I am a working mom and I work a lot of hours during the daytime, right? So maybe I don't get I don't get to spend with my family too much as maybe I'd like to. Maybe it creates me to be more of a stressful type of mom because I'm always busy. Maybe I'm a mom that is always running and going and I never have any time for myself to do the things that I need to do. So there's many types of moms. So we have to ask ourselves that question. Number 2, what are the circumstances? Well, what does that mean? Circumstances mean the situation. So I always think about myself personally. What is the space that I am? When I'm in this scene, obviously there's something important about it if the writer put it there, right? Because we always want to be truthful to the writer as we know to be, which means we want to honor the writer. He wrote this script for a reason, and we want to honor that and bring the most authentic character that we can to what he wrote. So we always say, I say, pick up the words and bring them to you. And that'll help us create an authentic character. So what is the circumstances? Am I in an office and someone's coming in to talk to me and I'm in the middle of a project and I've got like a deadline I have to meet? Or am I in the kitchen baking cookies and I have all day? And so someone comes in and talks to me. It changes the tone, it changes the mood, the situation that we are in. So what is your circumstance? What is the situation? What is the space we're in? We always have to think about that. Number 3, what is the relationship? Well, who am I talking to in this scene? Is this maybe a son or a daughter, or is it my husband? Or maybe am I going to a PTA meeting or a parent-teaching meeting and talking with a teacher about one of my children? Or am I talking to a student like I am doing with you right now? It changes our demeanor. We have to understand the relationship of whom we're talking to, because you can take a sentence and say it 5 different ways, depending on who the character is, right? If I'm tired and I say, please go take the trash out, and maybe it's one of my children, I might just say, please go take the trash out. But if it's someone that's working in my home and I don't really know them very well, I might say, please take the trash out. I don't know. It changes for us depending on the character. Perhaps I'm a lawyer or an attorney, or I'm someone in a really important position at work. I might be more aggressive possibly, or more determined in what I need to do, and I just say, please take the trash out. So we have to think about that at the same time, which leads us to what's our objective? Meaning, what is our motive? Why are we saying what we're saying? What is it that I want from you? Or sometimes, like Stanislavski has it written that way, what do you want? We have to think about, maybe it's not always something that I want from the other actor. Maybe it's something I want internally. Maybe I'm talking to you, but I really want to be loved. Maybe I want to be heard. Maybe I want to get a vacation because I'm really tired. And maybe those are the things that I want inside. So it's not always I am talking to this other actor because I strictly only want something for them. Maybe it's a combination of both, right? So we have to think about that. The other thing is, what is the obstacle? Is there something in my way? So let's just make believe for a second that I'm talking to one of my sons. They're older young men now, but maybe they don't listen to me too much. They kind of just brush me off. They're used to me, and I don't really know that they're retaining and hearing what I'm really saying to them. So perhaps I want to be heard. I want you to hear what I have to say because it's important to me. And so there's my objective, my motive for what I am saying to you, right? But now what do I have to overcome? Maybe this has been such a pattern because they're my own children that they're just so used to responding to me and then going off and doing what they want to do. So what is it that maybe I have to think about that I have to overcome to get them to hear me? Maybe I need to change my tone of voice. Maybe I need to express myself a different way. Maybe I need to not be so long in what I say to them. You know, boys and girls are different. Boys like you to get right to the point, right? And girls sometimes want to hear a lot of words and they want to feel what you're feeling. So it just depends on who you're talking to. But I definitely have to find that obstacle and try to overcome what that is in the scene. Last but not least is, what is my tactic to do that? Well, let's go back to me having sons. Perhaps my tactic in that is I determine that I have to take a different approach when I speak to them in this scene. Maybe I just have to throw away everything I've ever done and I have to come another way and show them that I can hear what they're saying. Perhaps they just feel like I never really listened to them too. So that changes things up in the scene. So maybe I have to change my approach. And that might be the answer to my obstacle. And there's so many more. You know, there's a movie out, some of you may know. It's called Doubt, I believe, with Viola Davis and Meryl Streep. And I watched an interview with Viola Davis one day, and she was talking about how she goes over all these questions. Once again, reach out and I'll be happy to share these with you so you can post these up in your own personal studio. But she said, Viola Davis, working with Meryl Streep, that she never saw anyone go through so many questions like Meryl Streep does. She had 20, 30 questions. She never stops and just keeps it surface. She always goes deeper and deeper and wants to know more and more and more about her character. So this is one of the techniques that we do at the Nashville studio of method acting to help us explore our character, help us to be genuine, and bring us to where we need to go in the work. Now, who are you talking to in this?
Sorry, what was that?
Who are you talking to in this?
I'm talking to my fiance, Chris.
Okay.
It's the night where he just trashed the hotel room, and I'm confronting him about it. What's up with you? What's going on? You know, I wish everybody would stop telling me what I should want. I gotta hear it from my dad, my mom, AB, and now you. Chris, I mean, come on. Oh, but that's you out there? Gotta trash hotel rooms?
Hold on, Natalie. Natalie, I'm going to stop you, sweetheart. Can you hear me, honey?
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm just going to stop you. How do you feel in this moment right now?
I feel distracted just because.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. All right. Why is your body language is important too? So why are your arms crossed there too?
Just because I'm upset with him, I think. So I
Okay.
was just trying to give like a whole like I'm upset type of.
Yeah, you see what you just said though? I was thinking of a
Oh, okay.
so we don't need to conjure anything up here. I want you to do this with me. All right. You and me, we're going to do this right now. So I want you, now here's what I want you to start I want you to, you're in your kitchen. You can start even behind that counter if you want to.
Okay.
And maybe you're putting things, you're wiping the counter down. I want you to do something. And then I want you to look at me and I want you to walk around the counter. So you're closer and I want you to begin talking to me.
Okay.
Okay. And we're going to do this together a little bit.
I don't know exactly where this is going, so I might say the wrong thing, but I'm just going to respond in the beginning.
She's outside. It's like at the whole. It's in LA, but at outside of the hotel, like near the
Oh,
like the dumpsters.
okay, well, we're changing it up. You're now in the kitchen.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm gonna be him. Tell me this. What do you think he'd be saying to you in this moment?
He's telling me that he's not good enough for me,
Okay,
and that I should basically just move on. He just has a lot of low self-esteem going on and his own issues.
okay. And so how do you feel about that when he's saying that to you?
I love him, and I know it's not true because I can see the good in him, and even part of the script, I tell him like, I can see you. I know the real Chris.
Okay, so let's work up to that because what I'm getting is anger.
I think she is angry because
Okay, but let's
she
work up to that. I'm going to say, I know what's going on. We're not in the dumpster. We're in the kitchen now. And I'm going to be him for a moment. And I'm going to say to you, you know what? I'm just not good enough for you. I want you just to genuinely respond to me.
okay.
All right. Slow
Okay.
up and breathe. You don't have to worry about appearing like crossing my arms because it's going to make me look mad. No, you're going to be presently in this moment and really see him. So you're
Okay.
going to respond to me. I don't want you to look at me. You're going to come around. I want you just to look off camera, but I'm going to be him talking to you just in the beginning. And then pause, relax, look at his body language and respond to it. Like I want you to really see him. Okay? But I'm just going to start it off. So we're going to have to work on all of this is under imagination. So we're now in the kitchen. He's now sitting down. I'm going to be him for a moment and I'm going to tell you, you know what? I just don't even think I'm good enough for you. However, I say it. And you just genuinely respond. We're off script. You just genuinely respond to me authentically, however I say this.
Okay.
And then continue it on without looking at me. Don't look at me at all ever. And just continue it on looking at him and let yourself slow up and breathe. Okay, baby?
Okay.
Okay. Wipe that counter down. Nope, you're ready already to walk around. As you're doing those things right there, even if you stop and take a drink of water, be present in the activity.
Okay.
Like, don't think about where you're going next. Just be present and then look and start talking. You know, I'm probably not the right guy for you, man. I'm just not. I am just a mess, man. You would be better with someone else.
Chris, what is up with you? Why are you trying to spoil everything? I gotta hear it from my mom, my dad, AP, and now you. I wish everybody would stop trying to tell me what I should want and what I should do with my life and what's good for me.
I'm not trying to upset you. I'm just sharing with you.
Oh, but that's you out there? Guy who tries
Yes.
to rooms? Big hotshot rock star? Oh, so that's what we're doing now, Chris? You know, I've been around musicians my entire life. I am not impressed. But I see you, Chris. I know the real you. You know what your problem is, though? You can't even recognize something good when it's staring you straight in the face. I might not be street smart and all that, but I know not to be that dumb.
Okay. All right. How did that feel?
It felt different, but I still felt a little distracted compared to last time.
Okay. So what's distracting you?
It's right now. I'm at my brother's house and I have my dog and his dog, and they're distracting me. They're outside playing, making a bunch of noise. So I'm trying to like get it out of my head, but it's just a lot that's going on right now.
Okay. So
A lot
here's
of
the
movement.
thing. But here's the thing. There's a lot of distraction on set too.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be able to be present, right? So that's why we go back to doing those exercises, right? Because what did I say while we're doing them is to be able to focus, to be able to be centered. So we can't allow those things to be our reason, right? So let them play. I actually liked what you were doing. It started off a whole lot better.
Okay.
You came out the first time, oh, hands crossed, here I go, I'm ready to start. You didn't. You worked around, you gave me a chance to say what it is that I wanted to say. And then you stopped. What I loved is you went to the counter and you stopped. And you just talked to me from there, talked to him from there. And that was very good. And I believed you. I
Thank you.
believed you. So I think where you are right now is you're being a little hard on yourself, and that's okay. I mean, I used to do it all the time, and I still can get like that a lot.
Yeah.
So we all do that. But I want to point out some things, Beauty, because you're growing in your work, and I want you to recognize that. But let me point out a couple things that you did differently and why I stopped you. I stopped you because you first came in and it was like what you said. Oh, now I got to show them I'm mad. And you just went at them. This
Mhm.
time I gave you a little something to do. You went over, your body language was appropriate for what you did. And then you let me say what I said. But you coming over to that counter and stopping right there and leaning in it like you did, you kept your tone down. It
Mhm.
built up to what was happening here. And I love the way you came and sat down. You stopped, you started here, I'm just like, I don't know the words, but the mood was, I don't even know what we're going to do here. Ben, let me come over and take a seat. And you know what your problem is? Let me tell you what your problem is. It was beautiful. Like it's like singing a song, right? We have this. So those are all really good things. And I want you to recognize that, Natalie. What I want you to do is we're going to work more and more and more on being present in your moment because we can't let all those things be in our way, right? We just can't do it. You're focusing on me right now, and I'm sure those dogs are still doing whatever they had to do.
Yeah.
So we can't make it as an excuse,
Yeah.
right?
No, yeah, you're right.
Right? Okay. And that's okay. But even under that pressure that you were putting on you, it was still very nice.
You can record yourself from a cell phone or a camera. You don't have to go out and buy a really expensive camera to do self-tapes. When I first started, I used my telephone. I have a camera now, but the telephones are made today. They have wonderful, wonderful video that they record, and it's perfectly fine for casting directors the way the camera just records us. So one of the things you want to keep in mind though, when you are recording a self-tape, you don't want to look directly into the camera. That can just kind of throw a casting director off a little bit. So I always try to look a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left. So they can just watch me and enjoy. It's kind of uncomfortable, I think, for a casting director when you're looking directly at them too. And they might lose some of your performance due to that. So always look a little bit, have an eye line set up to the right or to the left. And if you have to look down a little bit, always try to keep it eye level so they can see the truth in your eyes. When you're auditioning. So again, all of this equipment does not have to be really expensive equipment, but you do need to have it. And don't take any shortcuts when it comes to your equipment. It's very easily to be able to purchase all of this on Amazon or even Walmart has some of these things that you would need. So don't go out and spend a whole lot if you're new to this, but I would definitely start practicing self-taping in your studio, whether it's a monologue or whether you want to practice with someone else reading with you, and just start practicing it so you can set up eye lines, so you can see if your lighting looks good, so you can see what it's like behind, so when you come in you don't feel strange. You've already been practicing, you feel more comfortable, and you're ready to go.
Good afternoon and hello everybody. My name is Tanya Joy. I am one of the students at the Nashville Studio of Method Acting, and I'm going to show you a little sneak peek to my studio and kind of how I use things. I not only am an actor, but I also host a podcast, so I have a little bit of a different kind of setup, but I want to show you around. So hang tight. Here is the setup for my studio. I've got the Rode Podcaster board that I love with my wonderful headphones right here that make it real easy to do my editing. I've got these big lights here. And then I've got a boom mic right here with my Shure, I believe it's an SMB7. And then I use this pop filter for when I'm doing voiceovers. I've got my monitor and my Logitech Brio mic right here, or I'm sorry, video camera. And then I've got my blue screen. I also have the ceilings covered. I can pull this over when I need this. And then we have the basic setup of the desk. Just like that. And we have some canned lights on the floor that add these little lights here.
So in auditioning, we have to think about a couple of things. We have something today called self-taping. And you know, you get a lot of mixed opinions about self-taping. Some actors like it, some actors don't, but I can assure you it is here to stay. So it's a good idea to learn to love it. And I think one of the things that will help you to do that goes back to being prepared, right? Being prepared for anything always builds your confidence. So to be a confident performer in your self-taping in your home studio, you need a couple of items. First of all, you're going to need good lighting. You can purchase that on Amazon or Best Buy or anywhere, but you can get a couple umbrella lights or something on each side of you that gives you equal lighting on both sides and brightens you up. So the person that's casting you for a role, they always want to look at your eyes and be able to see if you are being genuine and truthful in your work. So good lighting is very, very important. Then we need to have good sound. They need to hear what we're saying, and you don't want it to be muffled, and you don't want to have a lot of noise behind you. You want to be clear and you want to be heard. Now there's several different types of microphones you can purchase. They're very inexpensive depending on the one you want to get, but they have some that just connect to a camera or your phone and it can connect to your shirt. There's other ones, lavaliers, that just attach to your clothing or set up to connect to your phone or camera that you're using to record yourself. So you need good lighting, you need a good microphone that will pick up you clearly. You want to make sure you don't have a lot of noise behind you. That can become very distracting for the people that are casting. And then you want to have a solid background. So what I'm using here today to talk to you would not be appropriate for self-taping for an audition. Again, these are relatively very inexpensive too. On Amazon, we have what's called a blue screen or a green screen. You just want to have a solid background. When I first started out doing self-tapes, I just used a blank wall, and that worked just as well. Now, of course, I have a blue screen and I kind of upgraded my equipment. I try to do that every year or two or a couple of years. But you definitely want to have a solid wall behind you. You want to have good lighting, you want to have a good microphone, and everything is positioned on a tripod so it's not moving and the camera's not moving when you're self-taping. There's something also called a reader. So whoever you're performing with or will be performing with when you actually get booked and have to do the scene on a movie set or even a theater production, they do self-tapes for now, but you need a reader. That's someone that's playing the other character, just reading the words for you. They're not necessarily portraying and doing a whole acting skip behind the camera, but they are reading for you the other character so you can respond to them, because that's a big key when you're self-taping and you're auditioning. You have to be able to respond genuinely to the other actor, just like you would on a movie set, TV set, or the theater. We have to be able to be genuine in our response. So it's like, I'm talking to you now. If you were to say something back to me or ask me a question, I'm going to respond to you. That's the same thing with a reader in a self-tape. We want to be able to respond naturally. I'm just so sorry, hon. He was a wonderful man. You were fortunate to have him as long as you did. If you need anything, we're just a phone call away.
Thanks.
No, I mean it. Call me, okay?
No, I will. Will you excuse me?
I want to talk to you a little bit about auditioning, because I want you to keep in mind we are the instrument. Lee Strasberg would always actually say that, but we are the instrument as an actor. So we're not playing a piano, we're not wearing our ballet shoes, we don't have anything else to depend on except our body, our emotions, and our spirit, right? We are the full instrument that has to be vulnerable in the work that we are doing as an actor. Okay, then we have to think about that character. So what do? I'm gonna pick these up again. These questions, I've already done this before in my preparation before I come into my studio room. So we can't be in here reading words, because then you're not going to be genuine, right? It's not going to look natural. You're going to look like you're pretending or you're conjuring something up, and you don't want to do that as an actor. You want to be what they call living in the moment. Well, acting, and especially method acting, we are behaving truthfully in the reality of the moment that we're in. Okay, so it's very truthful work. This is the reality that we are in this scene. This is what's happening in this space, kitchen, living room, wherever we may be, right? We talked about that earlier. And then we have to work on our senses to bring it. I just did an audition not too long ago, last week actually, and I was supposed to be very hot in this and sweating and working hard. She was a woman that doesn't mind to get her hands dirty when she's working. So I had to think about all those things. I was busy in the middle of doing something in this scene before someone began to speak with me. So I stopped what I was doing, which was kind of heavy work. I was lifting up things and unloading something. And so that put me out of breath, because it would in reality, right? And it's hot, and I was sweating, and so it was about 100 degrees with humidity. So I had to think about all of those elements for the character that I hopefully get to portray in this upcoming film. And so I relied on my sensory work, and that sensory work brought me to an emotional memory. Now, what kind of an emotional memory did it bring me to? That's the misconception sometimes of emotional recall and emotional memory. I think people always think it's some tragic event that happened and you have to draw from it. Well, I think we all have some good events in our lives. I would hope so. We can draw from those. What I drew from, it reminded me of just walking in Florida on a really hot, humid day. Wanted to go to the beach, but I was busy outside, had to do some gardening. It reminded me of how I felt and what it felt like to be hot and sweaty and tired. And so all of those senses got activated in my work, and I brought it to the scene, which changed the delivery of the way I was going to respond to the other actor. So when you're in your studio, you have to always come in prepared. You must have gone through all those questions first, know the answers to them. I always tell my students, just write it down in a little journal. Ask the question and then write it down, and keep exploring until you see that it makes sense for the character that you're portraying. And then when you come into that home studio, you're ready to go. I always like to say, if you can dress the part, nothing outlandish, but something that helps you to feel the role a little bit. Now, of course, if you're doing a period piece from something from the 1800s, you don't have to come dressed that way. And again, that's why sensory work helps, because how do you feel that? And what does that feel like? And of course, that's not emotional memory, because I know none of us came, I wouldn't think, from the 1800s. So we have something we call substitution. That's another technique and a tool that we use, but I might substitute a thought for a character that I might be portraying from the 1800s. So there's a lot of thinking in the preparation process. So when I come into my studio, I am ready to go. I know the choices that I made. The choices that I made were because I did the homework. And I have to trust the choices that I made, that they're good, and they're bringing truth, because it's bringing truth to me. I would believe that it would to the casting director. Now, that might not always be the right choice for the actual character, but if there's truth in the work, And the reason it might not be is because we don't have a whole script, but usually we're pretty close to it. But if there was something that needed to be changed, that's okay, because at least the casting director is getting to see whatever choices you made, you're solid. You are confident in them. You're not thinking too much in your head, because if you do that, meaning, am I thinking about what they want? Or, oh, I hope they like me, or any of those kind of questions, then you are shutting yourself off for being a genuine, truthful actor who responds, right, naturally and authentically in the moment of this reality. Okay, so you have to think about all those things, bringing it into your studio, and then trust that those choices that you made for this character, and stay with it. Don't worry about thinking what somebody else thinks about, because what they will see is that you're a professional enough actor, a professional actor, seasoned actor that knows how to make a choice for a character, whether rightfully for this particular scene or not, but you know how to stick with it. And when they see that, they will remember you, because you're living truthfully, you're behaving truthfully in this moment of reality. So that's a few of my tips that I'd like to leave you with for auditioning. You never want to read from a script when you're auditioning. I know some people will. Some I even know have used a teleprompter. I try personally myself to stay away from that. There are exceptions sometimes, depending on how much time you get to prepare for the character. We don't always get a long time to prepare, right? So it might be within 24 hours I have to do a character, and perhaps there's a lot in it that I have to memorize. So I might do a little shortcut of a teleprompter just to have it there, possibly, but I usually like to be prepared and do my work in advance, and then come in and just see where the work's going to take me. Depending on how the reader speaks to me, I'm going to respond back, and we're having this conversation. That also helps you in acting. You will hear the word nuances, that you have natural nuances. Well, what are nuances? Nuances are exactly what you're seeing here today with me. When I'm talking to you, I happen to use my hands. Quite a lot, I think. I'm Italian, and I think I was raised that way. We just talk with our hands a lot. Now, sometimes, depending on the character I might play, I don't always do that, and I'm very aware of it. But I'm just being myself here, sharing with you today, right? So that's a nuance. That's a genuine nuance. When I talk to someone, this is just a natural way that I speak. And so nuances might be, you know, if I'm itching for a moment while I'm talking, this could mean I'm thinking about something you just said. And while I'm doing this, so there's certain little things that we can do that help us in our character, to help us feel and be more believable in the performance that we're giving. One of the things I noticed early on in my self-tapes, because it was also new to me, I used to audition in person, right? So was I would do too many takes. I would do it over and over and over again, and I do not recommend that. Today, I don't ever do more than 3 takes, and I usually wind up going back to the first or second as my choice. But don't overdo it, because then you can start losing the nuances, and the performance can start getting a little bit like sterile, and it doesn't feel as authentic to you or to the person watching. So I don't recommend doing too many takes, but always choose the best one. Trust in yourself with it, and just be there and be fully present when you do your self-take. I try to have that guideline of no more than 3, and then pick your selection and send it in and let it go. Do not dwell on it for days after. Just let it go after you've done it. If you know you've done your best, I can promise you, where God wants you to be, you will be. And the role that is meant for you, you will have it. I really, really hope that this has helped you today. Of course, we're just touching the surface. There's so much. I studied for over 10 years with the method acting technique, went around to, like I said, I worked with the masters, gone to all the schools, and I'm always, always working my craft during the week. We need to keep this going because we evolve as people. We change, we learn things new, so we may make different choices depending on where we are in life. That's why it's always so important to get understanding of what the writer is trying to say here. Again, I hope it's helped you. If you have any questions for some of this that I'm discussing with you today and sharing with you today, you can feel free to go to my website. It will be posted for you, I believe, and you can reach out to me anytime. You can email me, go to my website. My information is there as well, and I'll be happy to guide you and help you in any way that I can. Enjoy the process, trust the process. Acting is fun. It teaches you a lot about yourself personally as well. And I think it's one of the greatest art mediums that you can have. So just have fun with it, enjoy it, observe people as well as observing yourself, and just have a great time. Thank you for joining me here today.